All right, good morning, good morning. I hope you had an absolutely phenomenal holiday weekend with your families. And I hope a lot of you got an opportunity to send out those gratitude messages, right? We know that that's a great time. Oh, I'm gonna make sure it's muted, my friends. There we go. Awesome. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started. A couple things that I want to note, my friends. One, November ends tomorrow, right? So this is a couple things. Anything that we're getting that we want to get closed out by the end of the year, if there are any challenges, transaction issues that come up, please get us involved sooner rather than later so that we can assist you on making sure that we help you get those transactions closed. Again, the other thing I want to note is remember that we have more holidays, right? We have more holidays that are coming up, which also means that we lose business days. Why is this important? When we're looking at contracts, if there's anything that has business days, that in order for those items to get done, whether it's inspections, whether it's time of escrow closing, right? Make sure you are accounting for the holidays as part of those dates, right? So just a reminder right now that we are in holiday season to account for that in your timelines, my friends. Okay, let's jump right into the market update. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Oh, there we go. All right, and can I get a thumbs up that you guys can see the screen? Thumbs up. Perfect. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, awesome. So jumping right in, my friends, we're going to get right into, of course, you guys know that I always have to go over the TCPA. We know that this is just important for us to reminder, please make sure that your lists are scrubbed, right? Especially we're going to be getting into the time of the year when we like to do expireds, right? Right at the beginning of the year, it tends to be a big expired time frame. Please make sure, my friends, that your lists are scrubbed. All right, jumping into showing time data. So we have been looking at showing time data for the last about year or so. And I'm gonna do a couple things here with this information. Let me make sure my friends, let's go ahead and if you guys can help me out on, let's keep us on mute. Perfect. Okay. Sorry, guys, let me go back real quick. Okay, so looking at our showing time data, of course, we know that 2019 is that light blue kind of baseline that we've been watching. 2020 was the anomaly in dark blue. We can see where we kind of shifted downward in terms of showings and shifted up as we had the shutdown, not necessarily lifted, but as real estate became one of those essential businesses, essential workers. Obviously, we have dips during the holidays. Now, we know that showing time data increased dramatically for a couple reasons. One was open houses were essentially eliminated during the pandemic. We saw that coming into 2021. And then when open houses were kind of allowed again, we saw this dip downward. And this is where we kind of met in the middle. We had a little bit of dip in showings right over here for the holiday. Obviously, we know that tends to happen around holidays. So Thanksgiving holiday, we see a little bit of that dip in showings. I'm going to note a couple things. There's going to be a company that I talk about when we start getting a little bit into the industry update. There is a new company that has launched a sort of showing, how do I put it? They launched a competitor to showing time. So we'll be talking about that today because I always think it's important to kind of look at what else is coming out, especially as we've been watching this data and we know that this data is not necessarily the most accurate in terms of the number of showings that are going on anymore, with the main reason being that as open houses have kind of made a comeback and as we've been allowed to have more of those regular showings, we're kind of out of utilizing showing time as a great way to analyze the data or the impact of COVID-19 on showings in the past few months or so. So just something to keep in mind is there is a new competitor coming to town. to showing time. All right, we're gonna jump right into our sales trends. Looking at Los Angeles, our for sale and our sold trends. I cannot talk about sales trends, especially right now, without talking about the effects of seasonality. So we know that right now, we always anticipate that there is a dip in the number of sales. This is the fourth quarter. There is generally a dip in sales, in listings across the board during this time frame. So month over month, when we look from October to November, and we see a dip of about 24.1%, right? That is not something that is atypical. We are always going to experience some type of dip around this sort of holiday season that we're experiencing around this fourth quarter. That is due to seasonality. Seasonality dictates that in the fourth and the first quarter of the year, we tend to see a downward shift, right? A downward shift in the number of properties for sale, in the number of transactions that are taking place. That happens every single year. So with that being said, when I see a dip of down 24.1%, number of properties sold month over month, down 6.6% from this same time period last month, that is fairly typical. What is a little bit more interesting is that the dip is much more significant when we look at this same time a year ago, right? Number of properties for sale in Los Angeles County down 35.1% from where we were a year ago. Now, when we account for seasonality, it's also important to account for the impact of COVID-19 on seasonality. This number seems like, oh my gosh, we're experiencing a huge dip in the number of properties for sale, 35.1% compared to last year. It's very easy to get kind of caught up in that story that we think the numbers are telling us. But it's always important to inspect what we're expecting. What we know to be true was that in the last year, in 2020, we experienced a pandemic. The pandemic meant that there was a shutdown in March, right? The shutdown occurred in March, which is the beginning of the second quarter. The second quarter and the third quarter tend to be the highest sales months across the board on the basis of seasonality. We see an uptick in the number of properties for sale, and the number of properties sold, and the number of listings that happens in the second and the third quarter of the year. And then we see that downturn in the fourth quarter. Last year, because of the pandemic and because of other economic factors that happened because of the pandemic, we saw a major dip in the second quarter of the year that is not typical. That meant that the second quarter of this year felt inflated. It felt not only successful, it felt extremely successful because the numbers were so much different when we looked year over year. But it also means that in the fourth quarter of last year, we had some pent-up demand, meaning there was more sales than is typical of a fourth quarter. There was more listings than is typical of the fourth quarter. There was more properties sold than is typical of the fourth quarter of the year. It also means that as we return to a more normal seasonality after COVID, right? As the effects of the pandemic are not completely lifted, but as we return to a little bit more normal seasonality, when we look at this year over year number, even though 35.1% seems like a lot, it's probably not 100% accurate when we look at, what that really entails. And I don't mean accurate in terms of it's not a 35.1% dip. What I mean is that obviously the fourth quarter of last year was inflated. And so the delta between the fourth quarter of last year and what we're experiencing now is a little bit more intense, a little bit more severe than it probably would have been had we not experienced COVID last year. So I'm only going to explain it here for LA County, but you guys know I always want you to understand how we analyze these numbers. As we go into the other 4 counties, we're going to account for this seasonality shift, right? And the delta of what happened during COVID and how it's impacting these numbers. So number of properties for sale year over year, November 1st through the 27th of 2020 compared to 2021, down 35.1%. Number of properties sold down 6.2%. Looking at our inventory trends in Los Angeles County, month over month. So we're experiencing those dips right over here. It's anticipated, right? We tend to experience a dip in the number of new listings at the end of the year. So number of new listings compared to last month, down 27.1%. Compared to last year, down 21.7%. Pending properties, compared to last month, we are down about 6.1%. Compared to last year, so this is interesting here, right? We are actually up compared to the same time last year, up 3.9%. Sales are still happening in Orange County. Properties are still going under contract. We are actually seeing an increase compared to the number of properties that went under contract last year. Why is this also important? When we look at the number of properties for sale, that's the inventory that is sitting on the market. New listings is new inventory that is coming on the market. Pended or under escrow is inventory that is no longer for sale, right? Because it's pended and it's now selling, it's in escrow, it's inventory that is exiting the market. So it's interesting to see this pended number experience an increase compared to the same time a year ago. All right, looking at our pricing trends. So we know what happens, right? Inventory, it's the price is on the basis of supply and demand. When there is not enough supply and the demand is there, we see prices go up. We are seeing the average active price. We had seen a little bit of a plateau here in July, August, and September, and we've seen that uptick happening, right? We've seen that uptick kind of continue to happen. So month over month, the same time last year, we are seeing the average active price has gone up by 12.6%. That is a fairly large increase in the average active price month over month. There is no fluctuation in the average sold price month over month. So properties are not necessarily selling for more than they did last month right now. It's staying pretty stagnant here. However, when we look at this same time a year ago, we're seeing that the average sold price, we know this number is important for us, that average sold price is up 14.7%. So when you are talking to homeowners in Los Angeles County, the conversation goes, I say this every week, right, is do you know that the average sold price in LA County has gone up by 14.7%? Just out of curiosity, do you know the value of your home? Would you like to? Or would you be offended if I did a home value for you, right? We want to start that conversation. We want to get into that dialogue. So that's our LA County price trends here is 14.7%. Okay, looking at our absorption rate. We were at about 1.3 months of inventory at this same time last month. We're only at about 1.1 month of inventory right now. Again, this is not enough of a fluctuation for us to have any major insight into this. It's a small change. We know that a seller's market has always been identified as 1 to 5 months of inventory. A balanced market is about 5 to 7 months of inventory, and a buyer's market is 7+ months of inventory. We have not been in a buyer's market for a very, very, very long time in terms of inventory. When we look at a buyer's market, other factors that are important doesn't put us into a buyer's market, but factors that are important for buyers are going to be things like affordability, right? Things like interest rates. Unfortunately, the absorption rate with LA County and with California in general, we have not exited a seller's market in probably, I'd say, over 10 years at this point, that we've kind of sat in this sort of market. So it's not really a factor that I look at when I'm talking with buyers about what's going on in this particular market. All right, looking at our average days on market in LA County. Again, not a big fluctuation. That is a day difference, 22 to 23 days, 4.5% increase. Not enough of a fluctuation for this to really have an impact. And then sold versus original list price, 100%. Okay, sold versus original list price is at 100%. This is a lag indicator for where pricing was. However, we are seeing that the average active price is higher, right? The average active price is higher. So while we may not see properties selling significantly above market, we are still seeing this 100%, but we have seen some fluctuation in the last few months. So what does this dictate for us? Sold versus original list price is hitting at 100%. Average active price has gone up a little bit. It was about over 12% is what we just looked at right now. when we are looking at our appraisals, right? When we're looking at appraisal and appraised value, we know average active price going up, sold versus original list price staying pretty stagnant. What would that mean if we're offering over asking? Is the property gonna appraise? It's not selling at 101 or 102% of list price. It's selling at about 100% of list price. Again, this is an average, so we do want to take that into consideration. That of course we're looking at everything from condos all the way up to luxury. However, just keep that in mind. All of these different fluctuations absolutely will impact appraisals, because we know that the appraisal is dictated by what? Price is dictated by what a buyer is willing to offer, that a seller is willing to accept, that a financial institution is willing to finance. When a financial institution makes a decision to finance, they go and they do an appraisal, because they are saying, we believe that this is the value of this asset, so that if for any reason the borrower defaults on their loan and we have to take back this asset, right? We agree that this is what the value is. We feel like this is a good investment for us. That's the way that they operate. And so when we see some of these different fluctuations that are happening in the market, pricing, sold versus original list price, all of these different changes that happen, it affects a financial institution's level of risk tolerance. They might say, hey, you know what? We're going to be a little bit more stringent on our appraisals right now, and a little bit more stringent on our underwriting process, because we want to make sure that we only have the best assets, or that the value is 100% there. We want to be conservative because there's a lot of things fluctuating in the market. And what does that mean for us? It means appraisal issues. So what do? I talk about this often as well, is we want to make sure that we have the most control over the appraisal as possible. What does that look like? When I would, whether I was on the listing side or the buyer side, when I was representing a client, I liked to always be there for the appraisal appointment. I took the first page of the residential purchase agreement, the page with the counter with the final price highlighted, as well as if there's any accommodations, I have those highlighted as well. And then the 3 comparables that supported my purchase price on either side, buyer or the listing, because in a bad appraisal can make or break a deal. I also then took one thing on that appraisal of the comps that you're going to include within a 1 mile radius, right? Within a 1 mile radius, notwithstanding freeways, zip code changes, or any major streets, 15% square footage difference max on the property, 15% square footage max difference on the lot itself, and preferably sold recently. So right now, I like to look at properties that are within the last 3 months. And appraisers have been known to go up to 9 months, but right now with this market, they tend to go about 3, maybe 6 months at most right now. So that's kind of what you want to look at with the comparables that you are including. And I used to take, if it was cold out, an extra cup of hot coffee or an extra water bottle, because I knew that their work was hard, and I'd rather be somebody in a good mood when they are appraising the property, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm stacking the deck in my favor on that deal. Right. So just some tips on that, on why some of this information is going to be important, and tips on how to stack the deck in your favor on those appraisals. Okay. Orange County sales trends. Again, month over month, we are seeing a decline. That is to be expected with seasonality. That decline is 34.1% in the number of properties for sale, 9.6% in the number of properties sold. However, when we look at this same time a year ago, I want you to understand, we said we anticipated a dip because of the effects of artificial seasonality and artificial large fourth quarter last year. What we know is that right now, the number of properties for sale in Orange County year over year is down 57.9%, right? Down 57.9%. That is a much higher fluctuation than what we experienced with the previous year, right? In terms of the number of properties sold, down 15.4%. This spread, the delta here, the variant between, not delta, the variant here in 57 to what we saw in the last year, this is a much more significant decrease than is generally to be anticipated here. All right, Looking at Orange County inventory trends, when we look at our new listings, right? New listings, again, we're seeing that decline here. We see that decline right over here, with the exception of the pendants right over here. When we look at new listings, month over month, from last month, down 31.7%. Properties pended, down 10.2%. Again, that is to be expected. When we look at this same time last year, listings down 32.5%. Again, we experienced that little bit of artificial pop-up at that time last year. Properties pended, down 12.2% year over year. Looking at our pricing trends in Orange County. So I want you guys to pay attention. Average active price here, we're looking at the second county in a row that now we have an average active price increase. However, average sold price in Orange County, we're experiencing a slight decline. 0.8% is not enough of a decline for me to really bat my eyes just yet. However, it's something that we kind of want to watch, right? We know Orange County is our highest price point county, right? It is the highest price point. Average active price up 16.7% month over month. Look at this fluctuation where we've seen this kind of increase continue, right? Month over month right here. We are seeing prices in Orange County go up. We look at this same time a year ago, average sold price up 22.2%. So what are we looking at, right? When we're talking to homeowners in Orange County, do you know that the average sold price in your area has gone up 22.2% over the course of the last year? Just out of curiosity, do you know the value of your home? Would you like to? Okay. I'm always going to repeat that for you guys. Okay. Looking at our absorption rates, 0.8 to 0.6%. We're still at less than a month of inventory, down 26%. Again, this is not enough of a fluctuation for us to really, for this to really have a major impact yet. But it is a decrease in the amount of inventory that is available, which is why we are also seeing that uptick in the pricing trends. Okay, days on market, not too much of a fluctuation here. One day, 5.6%. But again, second county where sold versus original list price is staying pretty steady at 100% of list, right? At 100% of list right over here as well. Looking at our Riverside County sales trends, looking at the number of properties for sale, month over month, we're experiencing that decline, which again is to be expected with seasonality, down 22.3%. Number of properties sold, down 5%. We look at this same time a year ago. So look at this spread here. We're back in the 22.6% in comparison to Orange County, where we're seeing that decline of 57%. A decline of 57% is huge, right? Whereas 22, we look at this kind of artificial high fourth quarter that we had last year that we're comparing it to. 22%, I could see that being accounting for a little bit of seasonality. In Orange County specifically, where the price point is a little bit higher, I do think we're seeing a little bit of an increase, a decrease in the number of properties for sale. That is a little bit beyond what is to be expected with normal seasonality during this time of year. We're just seeing that sales trending downward a little bit. One thing to note, it is a higher price point. Higher price point also means that you start moving into different loan types. So think your jumbo loans that are not necessarily going to be the same qualifications as you would have on a regular conventional or FHA loan once we start moving into jumbo loan territory. We know that when we see shifted trends in the market, we tend to see them first in higher price point areas. So when I look at a spread in LA County being in the 20%, when I look at the spread in Riverside County being in the 20%, and we're accounting for that artificial influx that happened last year, I can talk about seasonality. When we looked at Orange County and we see that spread is 57%, more than half, that might be a little bit more than seasonality at play. So I want you guys to be cognizant of that as we're looking at the numbers and we're kind of looking at the differences here between the counties and how it kind of gives you a little bit more insight. Okay, Riverside County inventory trends, new listings. So the number of listings we are seeing that go down 21.4%. However, the number of properties pended month over month up 11.9%. We know that this is a lead indicator. We're going to be looking at the lag indicator on pricing right now. My anticipation is that we're seeing pricing trending up here in Riverside County, just based on seeing more properties pended with less inventory, new inventory coming into play. We look at the same time a year ago, new listings down 13.6%. Pendeds, however, also up. So the number of properties going under escrow is still up. There are still a lot of sales happening, a lot of transactions happening right now. Pricing trends, as is to be expected, our average active price is up, as is our average sold price. Average active price up 11.6%. Average sold price up 2%. But this average sold price year over year, so from this time a year ago, the average sold price in Riverside County is up 19.7%. Just out of curiosity, do you know the value of your home? Would you like to, or would you be offended if I prepared a home value for you? Right? That's the conversation we want to be having with this 19.7% in Riverside County. Absorption rate, down slightly, 1.2 to 1 month of inventory. Again, not a huge shift here, not enough for us to really take note here as well, but it's an important number for us to just continue to look at. Days on market, again, 23 to 22, very slight fluctuation here, not too big of a deal. Sold versus original list price is the third county that we're seeing it hold steady at 100%, not under, not below, and not higher here, right? Sold versus original list price. So again, we are seeing the average active price go up, but that sold versus original list is holding steady. Okay, looking at our San Bernardino County sales trends. San Bernardino is our lowest price point county, right? The median home price in San Bernardino County is lower than it is across the other three counties. That plays into some of the trends that we see. Sales trends, number of properties for sale, month over month, down 18.9%, fairly akin to what we experience with seasonality. Number of properties sold, down 5.3%. However, what I do want you to pay attention here that is a little bit different than what we saw in the other three counties. And again, we look at price point, right? We look at price point factoring into this. The number of properties for sale, comparison to this same time last year, is up 12.6%. We saw dips across the other three counties, and yet in San Bernardino County, we're seeing an increase here in the number of properties for sale. When we look at the number of properties sold, right, there is a slight decline of 2.2% in San Bernardino County. We look at our inventory trends. Again, as to be expected, with new listings month over month, we are seeing a decline of 24.4% compared to last month. You can see that dip that's happening right over here. However, we look at last year, that is not as significant a dip as what we're seeing in some of the other counties. In LA County and in Riverside County, we saw this number be around the 20s. We saw the biggest dip in Orange County, the lowest dip in San Bernardino County. So these lower price point properties, we are still seeing listings that are coming on the market in San Bernardino County here, that we are not necessarily seeing that same trend across the board. Pricing trends, like the other counties, we are still seeing an average active price increase. However, this is the smallest increase that we're seeing across the four counties. So I want you guys to know we had more properties for sale, right? There's listings are not super low compared to what we're seeing in the other counties. And as such, with that little bit more inventory that comes on the market, supply and demand comes into play. Even though we are seeing that average active price still go up, like we're seeing across the other three counties, this increase is not as significant as what we saw across the other three counties. Why? Because there's more properties for sale, because there's still more inventory coming on the market. Supply and demand comes into play with that. The more inventory there is in comparison to the demand, the lower that price increase is going to be, because there's not the demand for it, right? So this is why we're seeing this kind of price fluctuation be a little bit on the lower side than what we usually anticipate. Average sold price up 1.1%. We look at average sold price a year ago, however, up 16.2%. Do they know the value of their home? Would they like to, right? Utilizing this 16.2% for San Bernardino County. Looking at our absorption rates, again, 1.1 to 1.2, 1.2 down to 1.1. Not enough of a fluctuation to move us out of any sort of market. But again, a number that's important for us to look at just so we understand seller's market versus balanced or buyer's market. Looking at our average days on market, not too much of a fluctuation here either, a fluctuation of 14.3%. Sold versus original list price, however, we were at 101% of the sold versus original list price last month. Right now we're at 99%. This is a really interesting way to see how the numbers all kind of play in tandem, right? We saw San Bernardino County in comparison to the other 3 counties that we're looking at. It is the only county where we are seeing a change, meaning that there was more properties for sale than anticipated. That spread is not as big as what we incurred last year. There are more listings coming on the market, not accounting for, there's not a big fluctuation that we usually experience with that seasonality, that artificial seasonality we had last year. We're still seeing a good number of listings in the market. We're seeing that average active price, while it is going up, it went up only slightly. Now we can see that the sold versus original list price is lower here in San Bernardino County. So lower price point, sold versus original list price at 99%. When we go and we're placing offers on property and we're going through the appraisal process, this is why it's important that you understand the difference of what we call micro markets. So California is a market. LA County is a submarket of California, right? San Bernardino is a submarket of California. City by city, there are even more micro markets, right? We start getting into zip codes and cities. Those are micro markets. When we're looking at San Bernardino County, however, we can see that this number here, we're seeing that decrease here. So we can't necessarily apply the same logic when we're in Riverside and we're in LA and we're in Orange County and we're seeing all these trends that are happening over there. And then all of a sudden we're showing a property in San Bernardino County and we want to use that same logic. This is why it's important to understand micro markets, because what's happening in San Bernardino County is very different from the numbers that we looked at in the other markets. And that's coming into play with sold versus original list price being at 99%. So if you treat San Bernardino County like Orange County, where the average active price has gone up so significantly, you say, hey, I want to offer X above asking, right? You can't say, hey, I'm going to offer $10,000 above asking in LA County and $10,000 above asking in San Bernardino County. Why? $10,000 above asking is a much smaller number in LA County when the prices are higher. This is why when we look at how much are we going over asking, I don't talk about 10,000, 20,000 over asking. We talk about percentages, 1%, 2% over asking, right? Because the price points are different. So sold versus original list price in San Bernardino County, don't use that same kind of logic when you're making offers in San Bernardino County and expect to have the same result when our sold versus original list price is at 99%. I would anticipate that if you are going over asking right now in San Bernardino County, the appraisal may not come in, right? The appraisal may not come in. Second, if you are representing a seller, right? If you're representing a seller, it is much easier to under promise and over deliver than to over promise and under deliver. So what do I mean by that? If you have a seller and they're watching what's happening in the market because they're watching the news and they're like, oh my God, houses are selling over asking and da 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 da. But they happen to be in San Bernardino County where we're seeing the sold versus original list price is 99% instead of 100 or 101%. They don't know that. They don't understand the micro markets at the same level that you do because you're looking at the data every week. A regular consumer is not looking at that same information. They're looking at the overarching message that they're hearing from the media. So if all of a sudden they get 5 offers and some of them come in over asking and they get excited because they had their property listed at 400 and now this offer came in at 425 and now they're expecting to walk away with 425, but the property doesn't appraise, Now we have a challenge because now that client is unhappy or they don't want to close. If we have that upfront conversation and we're able to share with them that, hey, on average in San Bernardino County, the sold versus original list is about 99%. We're anticipating that although we have these 4 offers and 3 of them are over asking, I want you to be aware, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, that it is possible that the property does not appraise, in which case we may negotiate. So I wouldn't count on that extra additional income yet until we get to that point. We can then decide if we're going to negotiate or we're going to see if we get it closed. That conversation, when you get to the point of an appraisal coming in, is a lot easier to have if you set the expectation at the beginning because you have the data and the information. So make sure you are utilizing this in your conversations, whether you are working with the buyer and you're prepping them to come with money out of pocket and seeing if that's going to be a possibility for them, or if you're working with the seller and you're prepping them on what to expect during that process. Okay, so now that we kind of went through the data, I wanted to share this. I thought this was really interesting. We know Zillow and CoStar have a little bit of a headbutting that they experience. Showing Time was originally a showing app that was an independent company that was utilized by the MLSs until Zillow purchased it, right? So Zillow now owns Showing Time as well as the auxiliary companies that go with Showing Time. Now, CoStar, right? CoStar, which has traditionally been the commercial MLS. So those that are not familiar with CoStar, we do have a corporate CoStar account here for the office. And a couple of our associates utilize CoStar. They have their own individual membership with our CoStar account. With the residential MLS, we have the MLS, and with our location, everything that we use California Regional Multiple Listing Service, which is the largest MLS in the nation. That is traditionally meant for residential property. CoStar is a little bit different. CoStar is a commercial MLS. You may have heard of LoopNet. LoopNet is also a sort of commercial MLS that CoStar owns. The difference is that LoopNet allows a user, you as a realtor, to create your own account and to post properties that are commercial properties that you would like to show off to a client. So let's say you have a warehouse or an industrial property or a 6-unit or 8-unit property, whatever that may be, an office building, etc. That can be listed on potentially LoopNet. Here's the thing. LoopNet is consumer facing, similar to what Zillow was. In commercial real estate or even in residential real estate, if a client does not want their home posted on the internet or they don't want their home posted on the MLS, in residential real estate, we use a portion of the contract called an SELI or an SELM. SELI is seller exclusion from the internet. SELM is seller exclusion from the multiple listing service. That means that me as, let's say, a homeowner, I decide to list my property with you, but I want it to be an off-market deal. I don't want it on the MLS. Maybe I just don't want anybody to know that I'm selling. So I exclude it. I do an SELM. In commercial real estate, it's a little bit different. There's a whole lot of different parameters in commercial. In LoopNet, that is consumer facing, meaning it's public on the internet. CoStar means I don't want no one to know that I'm selling. So if I have an office building and I'm selling the office building, I may not want the tenants to know. I want to list on CoStar, which is only available to other users that have CoStar. So that is what CoStar is. CoStar is this big commercial property. They also collect a lot of data on different property. However, CoStar has made some very interesting purchases. CoStar has made some purchases like apartments.com. CoStar has made purchases of HomeSnap. HomeSnap is one of the companies that they have launched that now they have unveiled a showing tool within HomeSnap. This is very interesting. It's interesting for a couple reasons. It's interesting, one, because they are directly competing with Zillow. But it is very interesting that a traditionally commercial company is looking at and unveiling things in the residential real estate space. Anytime I see a big company making moves like this, I always take note. It'll be interesting to watch as this unfolds. We'll continue watching it. I wanted to share it with you guys first because it is going to be again, it's CoStar, right? The difference here being is that Zillow now, they have a showing tool, but Zillow has received flack because as they turn into a brokerage, which they are in most states at this point, do we really want a showing tool that is directly tied to a competing brokerage? CoStar, on the other hand, is still in MLS, a syndication platform, right? Now, they do own a bunch of different companies. They have also kind of made a statement, like Zillow did years ago, that they are not getting into the real estate space as a brokerage. But again, they're an independent company, so they can do what they want, right? But now we have a competitor to Showing Time that is not tied to a brokerage. So this is going to be very interesting to see if we start seeing any transitioning to HomeSnap, how they're going to enroll this, if this is something that they are going to utilize to compete at the MLS level once the Showing Time contract is out with the MLSs. It'll be interesting to kind of watch how this unfolds with it as well. I do appreciate, I think with CoStar, they have given a few interviews. They seem to have a very, now I take this with a grain of salt. They seem to have a very similar philosophy in terms of they are in their own space and they're not wanting to get into the real estate space on the brokerage side. And they don't believe that Zillow should have done that. So I like that philosophy that they have. But again, they're an independent company. They're going to do what's best for, for themselves and their investors. And so it'll just be interesting to see how this kind of unfolds. But I wanted to share it with you because it was pretty new. Also, no ceilings, level up your lead generation. I talked about this a little bit last week. Last Tuesday, there was a whole new set of curriculum that was released on KW Connect. I believe it was 8 brand new courses that are available for you on lead generation specifically. This is a really good time to kind of go through some of that curriculum as we are doing business planning. I'm going to note, my friends, business planning, we are here and available for you. Please, 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 if you have not yet worked on what your strategy is going to be for the coming year, please reach out to myself, reach out to Fred, reach out to Brandy. We will do one-on-ones with you so that we can work through this with you, so that we can help you set up your plan for next year, because there are so many classes that are available, not just here within our office, but within KW. And what I know to be true is that we are not the type of organization where it's go take all of the classes, right? It's like going to the doctor. The doctor doesn't give you all of the medicine. They ask you what is going on, what are the things that you need, and they give you a prescription. That is the way our curriculum is designed. If there is something that you are wanting to master over the course of the next year, chances are there is going to be something there that is special for you. So in this level up your lead generation, I'm going to know they are phenomenal, phenomenal classes, and you don't need to take all of them. Okay? You don't need to take all of them. I would much rather you focus on one that is going to be directly related to something that you want to master in your business and implement the learnings. Okay, so come and see us. We are doing one-on-ones to do those appointments as well, my friends. All right, I talked about this as well. I talked about this last week, so I'm not going to go too deep into this just yet. This is still, now that this has gone to NAR for review. So basically, I explained the whole thing, but it was an attribution that there was going to be contact information displayed as least as prominently as any other contact information on all syndication platforms. There are other parts of this bill that we're going to be watching as this bill, depending on what NAR decides to do, once they have released, if this bill is a go, then I will go over it with you guys, because I think it's important for you to understand what is happening at NAR and CAR's level that may impact you. Some of the items are small, right? Some of the items are small, but they have a big impact. And so we'll go over this a little bit more in depth. All right, not many updates here, my friends. ADU grant program, I've already talked about this with you guys. I know a couple of you have actually sent this out to your clients, and it's kind of started some conversations here. That's going to be, that is why we go over this information. It's so that you can start conversations with your clients on the things that are important to your clients, right? If they're interested in having an ADU or accessory dwelling unit, they want to know about a grant program that could save them $25,000, right? We know the market forecast for next year is anticipating a slight decline in home sales of 5.2%, but also that the median home price is forecasted to rise 5.2% next year. So if you have buyers that are saying, I'm waiting because I think that the prices are going to go down, that's not what we're anticipating in California. We are seeing fluctuations with the interest rates, however. And what does that mean? Well, interest rates impacts the payment that somebody can make. So if prices go up and interest rates go up, that is not good news for somebody that is waiting because they think prices are going to go down, right? So have those conversations with your buyers. Senate Bill 9, we know Senate Bill 9 is kind of still sitting. There is no major change here, but this is essentially going to eliminate some of our single family zoning. So no major change here yet. And then mortgage relief, still under development. We've got about a little bit over $1 billion. It's going to be coming through to California. Please make sure to share this website with your clients, but the program is still awaiting approval and the money has not been issued to California to now create their application process yet. This has been kind of pending since August. So we're going to keep watching it. Let's see if they do anything this year. If not, we might be looking at the beginning of next year, but we shall see. So we'll keep kind of monitoring this as well. Last but not least, you guys know with segments, right? With the various segments that are available. If there is a segment that is of interest to you, please, please, please reach out to us so that we can share more about it. We know that there are some unique opportunities that are available in commercial with some of the courses available in new homes, the new sports and entertainment division that has just launched. I know a couple of you have expressed interest in here. In the new home developer program, reminder that this class is going to be the 14th through the 15th of December, right? KW relocation, which is still kind of pending. So if there is a segment that is of interest to you, please, please, please reach out to us, my friends. And then I still have this social post for November. The new December post is probably going to be out tomorrow. So I just wanted to post this here as a reminder to you. Remember to look at Outfront Magazine, and there will be a whole new post that is available for you, my friends. But with that, I know that was a lot of information that we went over today. With that, my friends, I know we went through quite a bit. This will be posted for you. So if you want to review the slides later, reminder that this will be posted. We do have a lot of different classes that are coming up. We're doing a big fix and flip class on December 15th. So we have a couple cool things coming up. That one is going to be taught by Pavan. We're really excited with that. You guys know as well, with contract classes, we are going over the new residential purchase agreement. It is brand new, right? It is brand new. Please, please, please make sure you are attending those classes. Also, if you are a member of the board and you have not done your ethics requirement, they will turn off your MLS by the end of the year. We are also in renewal season. If you are trying to figure out whether you are going to renew your membership with the board or you are looking to transfer to the Downey Association, I know a couple of you have expressed transferring to the Downey Association, please come talk to us. We can help you with that transfer, as well as if you're trying to decide, do I renew my membership, do I not? Come talk to us so we can walk through that with you as well, my friends. With that, I hope you guys have an absolutely phenomenal rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Absolutely, my friends. I appreciate it. Bye, you guys.